Absolutely.
Just like the last one.
Very nice, very nice. Well, folks, welcome. I'm William Sill, and I came to La Crosse in 1856. I was born in Connecticut, where I studied engineering, and after completing my engineering studies, I landed a job with the New Haven, New York Railroad. And later, after that, I was hired by the Milwaukee Railroad and sent here to La Crosse for one primary reason, and that is to bring the first railroad spur here into the city, actually from Portage, Wisconsin. And I was further charged with expanding and the construction of the Milwaukee Railroad throughout this entire part of the country. Then, in 1857, while still working on this project, I had the good fortune of meeting Mary Edgar, who ultimately became Mary Sill.
Thank you so much, dear. Yes, as William said, and of course as I introduced myself as Mary Edgar Sill, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and came up the river on a steamboat with my parents. I was a girl of about 16 or so when we made it up here to the La Crosse area, and that was in 1855. And a few years later, met this wonderful man here.
Love at
William.
first sight.
Oh, do you remember how we met? I'm not even sure. I don't even remember. I just know as soon as I saw him, it was love. And
She's pulling my leg up.
oh no. He was quite a catch. Quite a catch. Young, enterprising, intelligent. No, I was a lucky woman. And we married in May of 1857 or 1858.
You are
Oh,
correct.
it's
You
so
are
hard
correct.
to
You
remember
are
some
correct.
of those years so long ago.
58.
Oh, okay, 58.
Thank you, good lady. And we had 3 children:
We did.
Mary, Marjorie, and Frances. Mary and Marjorie left. Well, they married and ended up going east to New York. Both went to New York State. Frances stayed here
She did.
and lived in our house later. Oh, do you want to tell them about the house?
I do. We built a house at 920 State Street. And, you know, things looked a little different back then. You may recall that the city of La Crosse was initially called Prairie La Crosse, just like Prairie du Chien. And you may have heard from some of your guides here today that the Native Americans referred to the area as Strawberry Prairie. And the reason for that was there literally were no trees. It was a prairie. And we built our house at 920 State Street. Mary and I could stand in our living room, and we could see the Gun Brewery on the south, and we could see the bluffs on the east,
Yes.
because there were no trees.
And I believe you even made a comment one day that you could see your house in Connecticut.
I
where
think
you
one
were
day
born.
I almost could see that house in Connecticut.
But do you remember, I needed to plant trees and flowers and all kinds of shrubbery. So I turned our house and our lawn into kind of a garden, almost a park-like setting.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember?
you're being too modest, Mary. In fact, if you went by 920 State Street today, you'll see some huge trees, and Mary and I believe that some of those trees are the original ones that Mary planted as young cedars.
Oh yes, I do recognize. But although the house is gone, some of those trees remain, and it's a beautiful area there.
Things did look differently back then. As a matter of fact, the village of North La Crosse could be reached from the city of La Crosse because back then the marsh was impassable. Couldn't get through that marsh. So a couple of my business partners and I got together and we built a causeway connecting North La Crosse to the city of La Crosse. In fact, in the beginning we operated as a tollway because we wanted to recoup some of the expenses of building that road. Later on, we turned it over to the city, and it's now Copeland Street. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. So things were a lot different back then. I was asked to plat the city, so I personally surveyed the entire north side. If you don't like the way some of those streets are laid out, you know who to blame.
Yes, and one of the streets they named after you.
I believe they did.
Yes, they did.
I believe they did.
Sill.
Yes, indeed. And then in 1858, we completed the spur of the railroad right here, connecting La Crosse to Portage, Wisconsin, and from Portage to locations beyond. Little did we know how important that spur would be after the breakout of the Civil War, that infamous war that ran from 1861 to 1865.
Oh, that was a dark time.
It
A
was.
terrible time.
It was. And the first thing the Confederates did upon the breakout of the war was shut down the port in New Orleans. They felt that by shutting down the Mississippi River, they'd have an iron grip not only on the North but the entire country. And in the beginning, it looked like they were right, because the river was a primary source of commerce for wheat and for corn. And now suddenly that's no longer available. In fact, the newspapers referred to this tension between what they called king wheat and king cotton. Well, if that were true, then La Crosse, as it turned out, would be the center of the dynasty of King Wheat, because wheat and corn is what we produced in this area. So much so that in one given year we exported 3 million bushels of corn. You know, but the South kind of misconstrued what the results of this shutdown would be, because it had a severe adverse impact on them as well. As an example, a barrel of flour in New York cost $6. By the time it could find its way to New Orleans, it cost $50. A box of 1,000 cartridges for the rifles for the war cost 1,000 cartridges cost $24.95 in New York, cost $150 in New Orleans. So you can see the adverse impact that it had. And what we learned, the old adage that an army moves on its stomach, gained new meaning during the Civil War. Because what was happening at about the same time, the Brits experienced 3 years of torrential downpours, which destroyed their own corn and wheat produce during this Civil War. At one point in time, the Confederates thought that they could depend on the Britain to come to their aid. They wanted the Brits to enter the Civil War on their behalf. But what the Brits soon found out was, even though the South had King Cotton and they had a grip on cotton exports, I should say, the Brits soon learned that you could live a lot longer with one cotton shirt than you could without bread on your table. So here we are with this spur leading all the way down to Milwaukee. At one point in time, Milwaukee was the single biggest exporting port in the world. So you can just see the impact that commerce had on the Civil War. And in the beginning, we suffered some serious defeats. Morale